Starting goalie
Ottinger.
and any lineup changes, Rupe.
Rupe out tonight, but I would still term him day to day. He's getting closer. Skated yesterday, skating today. So, hopeful for game 2.
Is Petrovic still in the lineup?
Yeah, yeah, same lineup as game 6 against Colorado.
Other questions for Pete? On the left, Mike.
Hey, with Rope, because it is an upper body injury, when I've seen him skating, he looks like he's skating really well. Is that a good thing? Like, how do you see that as a coach? Because the upper body injury could be really limiting, but at the same point in time, his legs seem to be fine right now.
Yeah. Yes, his legs are good. Yeah. I mean, I don't. I guess I don't know how to answer that. I don't. He legs are fine, wind's fine. He's got an upper body that's keeping him out, but he's progressing and really close.
And I was going to steal one from the Eastern Conference morning skate. They were asking the coaches, how do you feel before the game? Like as you're walking out there on the bench or, in the room getting prepared, what's the emotion as you get ready for a series like this?
Yeah. From a coaching perspective? Yeah. Excitement. I think experience teaches you to make sure it's controlled emotion and composure and those kind of words. But there's no better feeling than walking down the tunnel to a packed home rink, for the conference finals or the Stanley Cup finals. That's as good as it gets.
On the left, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, how are you? Just wanted to ask about kind of home ice advantage and last change when they've got McDavid and Draisaitl on separate lines. If that tool is that much more valuable to kind of get guys out there at the right time.
Yeah, I think it's always valuable. I mean, if you have your preference, I don't think it's everything. I mean, we saw Carolina Rangers last night. There was conversation about the importance of last change during that game, and didn't seem to be a factor. So, as a coach, you always like to have that tool at your luxury, and you work all year to have home ice for that. But the bottom line here is they're a deeper team than Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, and we're going to have 4 lines and 6 defensemen and a goalie, prepared and detailed and working to defend, whoever's on the ice.
You could argue their best weapon has been their penalty kill so far in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I know, you prepare your power play for that penalty kill, and what are the things they do well that you need to work around? Well,
they use obviously some of their key offensive players on the penalty kill, which makes them really dangerous. Colorado did the same thing with McKinnon. Vegas did the same thing with Eichel. He killed penalties. When you've got, and I know that's not who scored shorthanded in Vancouver. I know it was Janmark, but when you've got your some of your key offensive players, Nugent Hopkins killing penalties, they become really dangerous. That's why Rupe Hintz and Wyatt Johnson, are also dangerous shorthanded. I think we had 10 or 12 shorthanded goals this year too. So, aggressive penalty killing mentality, you combine that with really good players, it's dangerous.
We'll go to the back left.
You've reached this level several times before. You have a lot of players who have. You have some guys who haven't. Does it become a challenge to not let your mind wander and think ahead, or do you almost kind of want to think about, how close you are to the great prize at the end?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think there's any harm in pointing out or the players looking, and at least you're not near the finish line, but at least it's in your sight now. You can see it, and that should be a motivating factor. You get to this point, you're only halfway through, but it feels like you've run 80% of the marathon, and you've only gone 50%. But so I think it's important to point that out to your group, that there's still work to be done. But there's a different energy because, at least you can start to see it.
Stay in that same row, Nick.
Pete, could you just describe the job Jim Nill's done and building for this particular season, right? To have a Stankoven to come up, that in Johnston, the way he's broken out, that type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the best in the business and has been for a long time. And, on top of that, and I know you guys were talking about it yesterday, one of the most respected men in the business, just a great person to work for. And you see it every day in how he treats people. I think, for me, having been around some great GMs, I worked for Lou Lamoriello, I worked for Doug Wilson. I think as a GM, when you sit down at the end of a season and only one team wins, I think the best guys look at what went wrong with the roster, sit down with the coaches, and then, address those needs, fill those holes. And I know last summer, we got beat by a deeper Vegas team, and Jim went out and leveled that depth playing field, between signings, between him forecasting, and he forecasted that some of these kids would come in and contribute. That's not an accident. They're not coming out of left field. He felt that by this time of year, there was a couple of those guys that would be ready to contribute. So, that's what great GMs do.
We'll take two more. Elliot on the right.
Hey, Elliot.
Hey, Peter. Who's a player that when you came here that maybe you didn't know or you weren't sure about, that after now a couple of seasons you said, this is someone who really gained my respect, or I thought I learned there was a lot more there than I previously believed?
Yeah. It's a great question. There's a lot of guys here like that. I'll give you one older guy and one younger guy. I can't, for a younger guy, everyone talks about Wyatt Johnson, but I can't tell you how impressed I am with the growth of Thomas Harley and what he's turned himself into and what his potential is going to be. He's been absolutely outstanding. And when you look at his path, when I got the job, he came to training camp a year ago and didn't look close to ready to play in the NHL defensively. Went down, and all he did was concentrate on his defensive game. And now for me, he's one of the best two-way defensemen in the world. Plays against all people's top players, also contributes to offense. Killing penalties, outstanding. And and an older guy, for me, Tyler Seguin, and I've known Segi for a long time. I think he's he's a little bit of the product of his contract. A lot of the noise around his game over the last few years. He's really driven the bus for us in the dressing room. Chemistry, buying in. Playing the right way, filling whatever role we've asked him to play. We move him up, to first line center, move him down to third line right wing, have him killing penalties. Nothing's been an issue for him. There's been zero ego, and he's taken a lot of hits over the years from a lot of people. So I've been really impressed with him.
Last one, center on the right.
Yeah, hi, Pete. Last year, you guys were in this position, Western Conference Final. As you mentioned, there's depth, there's different bodies in the room. How would you describe the difference in what the team's attitude and feelings are this year compared to last year?
Yeah, I don't know, Bruce. I think when you're in the heat of it, you always feel like you can win. But, I think when we were playing those games against Vegas last year, I think it was more of a hope we can win, hope everything goes right and we can win. I think that's the difference this year. I don't think we're hoping we can win. We believe and feel that we should win every night.
Thanks a lot, Pete.
Okay.